So as a quick refresher, my name is Bella Foote, and I am a very recent graduate from the Missouri School of Journalism with an emphasis in strategic communications. I also graduated from the Mizzou Honors College, as well as received a minor in business. So in terms of career goals, my parents tell me that since I could speak, I've been a storyteller. My storytelling began with me just verbally entertaining my family to now just using many tools currently available, including, writing, video, photography to do the job. My dream job is to be a writer, ideally in a setting that focuses on culture and cuisine. One particular inspiration to me was Anthony Bourdain. I loved how he intersected culture, food, and history and used it to have difficult, intelligent, and just insightful conversations with people. The idea that my words could have the ability to excite people and bring them together has always been really fascinating to me. And I realize that's a really specific career goal, and it's not a straight and narrow path to get to where you actually want to be. So more generally, I want to be in an environment where I'm surrounded by creative minds. I want to be part of the creative process, preferably in a capacity that requires writing. I enjoy a collaborative work environment, but I also like the opportunity to develop my work on an individual level. It's just, about balance. In terms of content, I would love to create for clients that fall into categories that have to do with sustainability, the outdoors, travel, food, and drink. And as an added bonus, I would love the ability to travel for work. I'm fascinated by and love to learn and write about other cultures, so that would be a really exciting opportunity as well. Okay, so the first question, what are you really good at professionally? Or the second question. First and foremost, writing, which is obviously why I'm, very interested in Marketing by Emma. More specifically, I've had multiple experiences that have allowed me to showcase my writing skills. So for example, I was just recently a copywriter on an advertising team for a local hospital. And I was also a blog writer for a hostel in Barcelona during my semester abroad, where I wrote mainly about local culture, activities, and food. And then on a personal level, I journal about every day. Another skill is creative strategy. I've had a lot of experience using data analytics, primary research, and consumer insight, and then turning that into creative strategy. The journalism school at Mizzou really drove home the skill of pinpointing a consumer need or behavior and then creating effective advertising strategy that targets that core consumer emotion. And then I'm also proficient in Adobe products, such as InDesign, Illustrator, Photoshop, Premiere. I took a pretty intense creative design class, and I was able to familiarize myself with those products. And then content marketing is another skill. I took a branded strategic storytelling class, which had a lot to do with audience modeling, content strategy, distribution planning, data mining, as well as just research and analysis. Client partnership is another skill. I interned at Global Prairie, which is a creative marketing firm, and I worked on the client-facing side of the agency, so I honed in on my interviewing abilities, communication skills, PR crisis management, and just as well as just general professionalism while meeting with clients. And then collaborative creative campaign work. So this past semester, as I mentioned earlier, I worked as a copywriter on a team of 7 students to create a fully integrated advertising campaign for a paying client, which was Boone County Health. So from that experience, as well as just the many other team-based advertising experiences that the J School requires for classes, I learned how to propose ideas and then creatively brainstorm. It's definitely taught me to be a team player and value others' input, and I've just learned really to listen first and then without placing so much importance on being heard first. Additionally, I have quite a bit of international experience, so I love to travel, and I've learned to be very independent and I've fostered a desire to learn about cultures and incorporate that into a work environment. I spent my spring of 2019 semester in Barcelona, where I held 2 internships and really began to understand the nuances of an international work setting. And additionally, I can speak Spanish. So in terms of things that I'm not so good at or interested in doing professionally, large, more cutthroat work environments are not for me. I realized earlier this year, after I toured some really large advertising agencies in Chicago, that I don't think that I'd be able to flourish in an organization that was so large and like highly competitive. Another thing is work that requires an extreme focus on data or numbers and nothing else. I really enjoy touching all aspects of a product, and although some data analysis is necessary, and I do enjoy that, more so I enjoy the creative process and that side of things. And then I would struggle philosophically in a position that would require me to work for a product that is harmful to people, animals, or the community. I would prefer to write or advertise for, like a local organization or business, some kind of nonprofit or international agency that puts, good into the world. As I mentioned earlier, anything that has to do with sustainability, outdoors, travel, culture, food, things like that. So generally, things that I don't enjoy include like math, directions. I'm very dependent on my GPS, and just closed-minded people, which I don't really think would be an issue in this situation. And then, so the question of who were your last 5 bosses and how would they rate you on a scale of 1 to 10? So I'm going to briefly mention each company that I worked for, but I'm also going to provide you with additional contact information for each of my bosses mentioned in an email. So you're able to reach out to them if you would like to. And to preface, I don't think that I would ever give myself a 10 in this situation, because I believe that a 10 would mean that I've completely mastered the trade, and these have been more learning and growing processes for me, as not careers yet, obviously. So in order from my least recent boss to my most recent, I'm going to begin with the Child Protection Center, which was actually my first internship, and it was in Kansas City. I think that my boss would give me a 9 out of 10 for this one. I was initially tasked with, like typical menial tasks of a young intern, but I actually quickly had my duties expanded. And I believe that my boss would describe me as eager to learn about the Child Protection Center and excited to just offer help in any way possible. So for example, I suggested that I would retake all the team's photos for their website so that it was more organized and cohesive, which was a pretty big success. So then summer of 2018, I spent 8 weeks teaching English to children at a summer camp in Thassos, Greece, which is an island in the North Aegean Sea. It's called Pitsos Children's Camp. I think that in that situation, my boss would give me an 8 out of 10. I think that my boss would describe me as resilient and compassionate, as I was the only American and native English speaker at a camp of over 300 Greek children. It was really quite an adventure, and at the beginning was extremely isolating, but I managed to push through my discomfort. I wrote every day, and I fostered really good friendships with campers and counselors alike. So then the Hello BCN hostel. As I mentioned earlier, I interned during my study abroad experience last spring, and I interned and essentially just did all of the marketing for Hello BCN hostel, a hostel in Barcelona. My biggest responsibility was writing for their blog, and I think that my boss would give me a 9 out of 10 for that experience. I believe it'd be a really high rating because I was really eager to get out and just explore the city and discover new things to write about. And Danielle, my boss, also kind of took me under her wing and mentored me a little bit and exposed me to the world of sustainable tourism, which I wrote a lot about. And I think she was just really appreciative of my willingness to learn and appreciate that aspect of tourism. So I also mentioned this earlier, but I interned last summer at Global Prairie, which is a full service communications and marketing firm in the Crossroads in Kansas City, which I'm actually from Kansas City. So I think my boss would give me an 8 out of 10. As a client partnership intern, I worked on an array of projects with many different clients, and it gave me a real sense of kind of what's involved with taking a concept to strategy. I worked on crisis communications for the first time, which I've never done before. And then the intern team also developed a full campaign for the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum's 100th anniversary, which we presented to our client as well as the entire Global Prairie staff, and they told us it was the best intern project they have ever seen. So I think that they would rate me an 8.5. And finally, beginning in August of this year up until, recently March, like mid-March when I was furloughed, I worked as a social media strategist for International Tap House, or ITAP, which I'm assuming you probably heard of or been to, but if not, it's a beer bar on 9th Street. And for this situation, I think my boss would give me a 9. I was in charge of their social media, particularly their Instagram account. And during the time that I was in charge of their social media, ITAP's social media presence grew significantly over this time period. I also coordinated some special events to attract customers on the slowest nights and then leverage social media to drive awareness and ultimately on-site sales. So that was a pretty successful internship. So in terms of availability, I am available, and I would love the opportunity to work for Marketing by Emma immediately. I'm able to work with a team or remotely, whatever it is, I'm up for the challenge. And I'm actually currently living in Columbia, Missouri. I live on East Campus. That's all I have in terms of answers to your questions, but I do have some questions for you if you have time to answer them. So it's just kind of something that I'm generally interested in, but have you seen any opportunities post COVID-19 for growth within the marketing arena? So I know that you do a lot with Amazon, so I'm sure that's probably a sector that you've seen growing. And then what's the work culture like there? Is everybody remote currently, and for how long will they be remote? Another question is, what is your client base like? So generally, is there a theme among clients, or is it more random? And then how are you able to access international clients? I thought that was really interesting. And also, what are the 4 continents that you've lived on? I was trying to figure that out, what that would be, but and then my last question is, I realize that this is a freelance or part-time job, and what does that entail? For example, would I be working collaboratively with a team, or would I be more on my own? So that is all the questions I have. And I just wanted to thank you again for giving me the opportunity to answer these questions and work with me. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you.